Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at inserting values into our database. So I've got the table creation, database creation handled here using the SQLite Open Helper, and I'm going to give this class that I've created, which extends SQLite Open Helper, another method, public void, let's call it set points, or maybe store points, and that's going to take a list of Java point, Android point objects, let's call it points, which it's going to store in the database. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get a kind of handle to the database that will allow us to write to the database. So I'm going to type get writable database, and that returns a SQLite database object. So SQLite database, there we go, and I'll just call that let's call it DB. And one thing that you must never forget, so I'm going to put it in here so that I don't forget it, is to close the database. So I'm going to say db.close, and in between we want to write some values to this table, the points table that I've created here. So I'm going to first clear out the database. I'm going to delete all the values in that table by saying db.delete. And now, well, I'm not going to use this work clause because I want to delete all of them, so I'll pass null for that. And the arguments for the work clause I don't want to use, so I'll pass null for that as well. And I need to put the table name in here. The table name is this, points. But rather than refer to the same text twice within this class, I'm going to use a private static final string, and I'll call it, let's call it points table equals points. And we wouldn't use like a resource string for this, because the resource strings are just for things that the user sees visually, and they're not going to see the name of the table unless something's gone badly wrong. So let's in fact create the SQL by doing a string.format, or I could just use plus signs, and I'll just have a %s in there, and here I'll pass in, let's just maximize this editor, I'll pass in the name of the table, which is points table, like this. So I'm just using string.format to replace this %s with this single argument here, which is the name of the table. And I'll do a similar thing down here. Actually I won't, because I just need the name of the table down here. So I'll just type in points table here. And now I've got that, I'm going to loop through the points that have been passed in. So I'll say for point in points. This is kind of what we call a for each loop in Java. And for each point, I'm going to use a content values object, which I'll call values, and I'll set that equal to a new content values, like this. Now, content values this is part of a mechanism that allows us to write the database in such a way that we're kind of using wildcards, which is always a good idea anyway. And you need to say for each column that I want to put a value to, I need to say values.put, and I need to supply a key, which will be the column name and a value that I want to place in that column. Now my column names at the moment are hard coded in a table. I've got 3 of them. I've got ID, X and Y. So I'm going to take those out and turn them into private static final strings. So let's say private static final string key ID, or I could say ID column or something like that, or col ID, something like that, equals ID. And let's just copy that and paste in a couple more, because I want to have column X and and also column Y, because those are the names of my columns. And let's replace ID in here with %s, and replace X with %s, and Y with %s. This is my create statement for my table, and I want to use these values here now, rather than having the same string written out twice, which will be pretty bad practice and will cause problems if we change them in one place only. I'll just do Ctrl-Shift-F to format that a bit, and that looks pretty okay. So we've got ID, X and Y, so that seems fine to me, and the table name is the first argument here, so that's all good. And now I can say, okay, values.put, and for the ID, call ID. I'm going to have an integer there, and so that I have an integer, let's just say here int I equals 0, and let's just increment that every time we go through the loop like this, I++. So I'll save this for the ID, and then if I copy this, save a little bit of time, and I've got the X column now, and I've got the Y column to store my Y coordinate, and I'm just going to use here the values from my point, so point.x and point.y. And finally, the final step here is I need to do db.insert, and I pass in the table name here, which is points table. And this null column hat thing here is something that allows you to insert values that are just empty, content values with no keys, but I won't use that, I'll set it to null. And the values here, that's my content values object. I'll put a semicolon at the end there. So every time we go around this loop, it's going to use these content values to insert values into this table using these, which are the column names in the table, and those are the values that we want to set those columns to. And when we've finished inserting there, we'll just close the database handle. And that should all work, and we're not going to see anything for the moment because as of yet I'm not querying the table, but in the next tutorial we'll get on to querying the table, and then we'll be able to check whether our points really are correctly being stored or not. And for the moment, one thing I am going to do is in my image activity here, this is the point which we fixed up in a previous tutorial where I want to store the points. So I'm just going to call there using my database class that I've been creating here, db.storePoints, using that method that I just defined, and I'm going to use that to store these points. And it's probably an idea to check that there's no errors, and I find it's hard to write code like this that's absolutely flawless the first time, but we'll see what errors come up, and if there are any, I'll go in, fix them and get back to you. But hopefully everything's correct and we won't see any obvious errors, which at least gives us some reassurance that the thing's working. So let's take a look, and when the image comes up here, I just need to click 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and now if we look at DDMS here, in fact we've got a lot of red text that's come up, and the exception here is we've got a duplicate column name ID. So I've got create, and in my SQL here it seems that I've called all the columns ID for some strange reason. Let's just take a look at what's going on there, and go to point collector and look at the not point collector, actually the database class. So I'll go to database.java, and I forgot here to change the name of the columns, So I told you I always do something stupid, but I thought I'd rather show you that, just because I'm guessing unless you're a genius, you'll probably have similar problems, and I just wanted to show you what to do about them. So let's go to DDMS again, and let's check that the application is actually running and being installed. So it says it's uploading it, and we should see success in a minute. And here we go. So we'll go to DDMS, we'll clear this, and go to the emulator here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and this time we've got no errors, and we can see we're running the method that collects the points, because I've got that collected points output, which is coming from down here. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, and in the next tutorial I'm going to go on to querying that database. So join me again then, and until next time, happy coding.